Well, welcome. This is another episode of the Yes California Cal Exit Congress meetings. We have a special treat for you on the show today is the leader of the New Hampshire Independence Movement, one of the leaders of the Texas Independence Movement, and our CEO of the Yes California Cal Exit Movement. So you're seeing a couple leaders from independence movements around America right now, all at the same time meeting each other very often. We're going to go to words from Jason Wright in just a second, right after this introduction. Then we will get to approving ambassadors. We will also cover a conversation with the California National Party, and we will approve the brochure. By the way, Rabbit, I got your edits. I'm sure that looks great. And then we will go to a live interview with Jason, who's in the field in Washington or Oregon right now as an emissary trying to meet up with Cascadia. But first, watch this introduction, and then we'll go right to some words from Jason. Okay, big show today, lots going on. But first, I want to go to Jason Wright, the CEO of Yes California. Jason, could you say a few words to our friends from the Texas Nationalist Movement, Daniel Rice, and then to Alu Axelman, the leader of the New Hampshire Independence Movement, Jason Wright, CEO of Yes California.
Yeah, let me just say, first off, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to see both Texas and New Hampshire represented with us. Also, I'm always blown away to see you, Dan. We've got an ambassador from Texas to CalExit, and he's here right now. Ooh, that's huge. I would like to say thank you to both NHExit, New Hampshire Independence, and to Texas Nationalist Movement. Your movements have both been inspirational, not just to myself, but to people who haven't been doing this thing as long as we have. They're seeing, I see all over online people in Texas seeing some of these Texit posts, and I can tell people are getting inspired. And same with New Hampshire. People all over New Hampshire are starting to talk about, the federal government really isn't working for us. And for me, I know that I shouldn't say here because I'm in Portland, but in California, how to put this, we have a lot of naysayers and a lot of people who just kind of refuse to be inspired. There are people who are constantly with the what if and what about. What both of your movements have done is help to get these talking points further out there, even more clearly up on the table. They were on the table already, but they were hidden in everything else. And both of your movements have really helped to bring a lot of the main course to the front of the table. So thank you both.
Thank you, and hi, Dan. It's been a while. I don't know if the rest of you guys know that Dan is a former Liberty blockhead. And then Daniel Miller took him from us when he was a free agent, which is fine.
Did you call me a Liberty blockette?
Liberty blockhead, a blockhead. But you could be a blockhead and a rockhead if you want, Dan. How's it going, dude? How's everything in Texas going?
Not bad. We just finished the GOP convention, and we will have the final planks out here soon, but it looks like we got the plank on the platform again and a secondary plank, which we haven't seen final language on yet, but we only had one plank on the 2020 platform. And now we have basically the same plank and then an additional one.
What was on the GOP platform before now? I thought this was the first time that you got it, which is why it's such a big deal.
Before was more saying that we reserve the right to enact the, can you hear me? Okay. Before it was more just saying we reserve the right for Article 1, Section 2 of Texas Constitution to exercise our political power. The additional plank, I don't remember the exact wording, but it basically says we will pursue an independence vote.
Yeah, it's amazing. When Daniel Miller texted me last night, I flipped out. I'm so proud of you guys.
Yeah, I guess it takes a couple weeks before they release the results, because I guess the final platform was voted by Scantron ballot, so they have to compute ballots. So we're going to send our ballots to California to be counted for us. Make sure it's fair.
So can you explain to everyone exactly how impactful that is? If it's part of the GOP platform, my basic understanding is every member of the Texas GOP kind of is supposed to or has to abide by the platform. Otherwise, they could be punished by the GOP. They do have to obey the platform, right?
Technically, yeah, it's hard to get a censure through, which I think it should be. Otherwise, censures would be flying around left and right every time somebody got bent out of shape. To me, the biggest thing is getting that secondary platform plank added, saying that you will pursue a vote. It might make censuring some of them a little easier in the future, because the first one, which is the continuation of I think the plank actually entered in 2016. I wasn't with them then to remember, but I think that's when it was first. It was either 2016 or 2018 when it was first put into the platform. It's basically that same plank, but then with this additional one, it makes it stronger. Supposedly I wasn't able to make it. I still have some transportation issues and some dog sitting issues, but next one I should be there. But my understanding is there was a lot of excitement.
So when is the next legislative session in Texas? And do you anticipate multiple sponsors of legislation for independence?
I would expect yes. Our guy Kyle Biederman was the guy that introduced the last bill, but he had one co-author came on and 6 sponsors, I believe it was, in addition to people that expressed interest. He's not running again because of redistricting, and he just wants to focus on family issues and stuff. I anticipate somebody will introduce it. One of the state senators, the only state senator that it never made it to the Senate because it didn't get out of the House, but there was a state senator. She was actually my senator when I lived down on the Gulf. She openly supported it. But supposedly from the excitement we were seeing at the convention, I was getting reports on it. It sounds like there's a lot of people excited for it. And I have to imagine it's going to get introduced again.
Are you saying that you had 7 or 8 co-sponsors? I thought you just had the one. I thought Biederman was the only legislator.
No. Oh, no. There was a co-author. Biederman was the one that introduced it, but then somebody said, yeah, I'll co-author it with you. I'm pretty sure that's how it broke down, was there was one co-author and then 6 people that signed on as sponsors.
That's incredible. We originally had...
It was still killed in committee.
And then we had 8 other co-sponsors, so we had 9 sponsors. And then the way it works is the Office of Legislative Services has to get a call or an email from the sponsor to confirm that they want to be on the final version of the bill. And from the 9 who co-sponsored, only 7 ended up confirming with OLS that they want to be on it. So 2 of them never confirmed. So actually the bill says no 7, but I know the person from OLS had 9. Now the 2 who dropped out, one is running for state senate, so he needs to maintain all of his political capital, but I still like him. And the other one is another guy who's pretty tough, but he is actually in leadership. He is something like the House whip or deputy whip, and I couldn't believe he signed on to it. So we had leadership sign on to this, and then he didn't confirm though, but he originally was one of the sponsors.
Unfortunately, none of our leadership are fans. So we're having to gain the numbers. We're basically trying. That's why we tried to put so many people on the ballot that had signed on to the Take Texas Back pledge, which basically is a pledge saying that you will support legislation and introduce it if you have a possible chance to introduce it. Yeah.
What you got,
And if
Marcus?
I can just add one little thing for everyone watching, that right there is huge. The furthest that we've got in California with our independence movement, as far as our leadership getting involved, we had a governor who once said something about, it may be bold to talk as though we were a nation, but we are a nation. Good old Jerry Brown. A lot of people don't like him, but hey, you know, he said that. And then, you know, we've got Newsom, Newsom currently, who will only say something about California being, you know, unique or different when it serves his desire for office, be it governorship or presidency. So that's really huge. I look forward to seeing more.
Did my dad have his hand raised?
I didn't hear. Was there a question?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
I can now.
So Daniel, at PorcFest in 2 days, we're going to try and arrange a standing ovation for the New Hampshire legislators. How can we get Kyle Biederman to join us on Zoom?
I can reach out to Daniel. He would probably know best what his current schedule. I'm not direct friends with him, but I'm sure if Daniel can pick up the phone and probably get him to free up time as long as he's available. Can you email me the details on the times that you're running that?
Yeah, there's a Zoom link already, so I should email you the Zoom link.
Okay.
So, by the way, there was a donor. I don't know if everyone here knows Daniel Rice. I haven't spoken to you in a while. A donor donated $50,000 to the FNHI so that we could commission a survey. And we're doing a survey. Unfortunately, California's not in it. It was so big, it would cost so much to pull that state, but 8 other states. I believe Texas is. Hawaii, South Carolina, a bunch of other states for independence, and New Hampshire is one of them. So 8 total states. And we're going to have some questions for all 8 states. Surveys will be similar, so that we can compare perfect comparisons between states to see who supports independence the most. So it'll be another competition with California and Texas. Well, because it's a scientific poll by Survey USA, so it'll be a proper poll by internet and phone. And they're going to see who supports independence the most. So we got to write a lot of the questions for New Hampshire's survey because they'll be a little bit different. So I just sent the check out. It's in the mail now. I put it in the mail last night for the remainder of the 50,000. And as soon as they get the check, they're going to start, and they only take a few weeks to do the poll in the 8 states. So hopefully within a few weeks, we may know the result of the poll. And this will be the first or one of the first professional polls ever done. The first one in New Hampshire ever done on independence. So I'm super excited. It's just going to be awesome. So as soon as the poll comes out, it'll be on Survey USA's website. But we're obviously the Liberty Block, HI. We're all going to jump on it and write articles about it. By the way, speaking of websites, you guys want to know why my dad's upset right now? Literally in New Hampshire, there are so many normal people, just regular grassroots, normal activists, normal people who support independence that they feel so strongly they've made websites. Another one we just discovered. My dad's like, why isn't this person working with us? And I'm like, this is a good thing. So many people make New Hampshire websites. There's a new site I just saw, NewHampshireSecession.com. I didn't make it. I emailed the person there, and it's some lady I don't even know. And it's like, so many people love independence so much, and I'm sure in Texas there are a lot too. Like, they love secession so much they actually made websites of their own. So now we have FNHI's website, the NHI PAC. There's a PAC that was just made by another activist who wanted to make a PAC for independence. So he and another guy made a PAC, and they have it. It's rolling now. It's already accepting donations. I'm donating $5 a month for covering. You guys should all do the same. But we have that. We have nhx.us, nhx.org. I can't even keep track. We have so many websites that were literally made spontaneously by normal everyday people, and it's a small state. So like 8 different websites for independence. That's like a lot in a small state. And they're just separate organizations, so it's so decentralized. I know my dad is like, "Oh, we should work together," which I agree with, but it's also a good sign that there are so many people who individually feel so strongly about independence they made websites. And I'm telling you, this lady's website, NewHampshireSecession.com, it's actually really good. It has great articles, and that's coming from a pretty cocky writer. Like some really good articles about, go to NewHampshireSecession.com if you can. And like some really good articles answering questions about independence. So I don't know who this woman is. I'm hoping to meet her at PorcFest because she's awesome. So we have like so many websites. Like that's our issue. Our issue is that we have too many pro-secession websites in New Hampshire, which I think is a good problem to have.
One thing I could say though, I agree that having a lot of people interested is a good thing, but what I find is the fracturing just from my efforts through the international engagement team. We get contacted by people. Florida is the one that pops into my head. I've seen like 3 different Florida secession movements. They build a website and then they don't do anything. One of them, I think,
Flexit and Florida Secession, whatever answer would be.
Yeah, one of them last time it was updated was like 2019, and it's got beautiful graphics and everything. And I'm just wondering if it's because people don't get united behind it. And even Texas has multiple groups. We don't get united because we have a different approach to a lot of it. We're not pretending that we're in a government in exile as some of our other groups think they are, where they appoint themselves as governors and Supreme Court justices, but yet they don't do anything. They basically hand out a title and you shake your hand. Not to put them down. Some people probably can figure out what groups I'm talking about, but we're focused on getting it done, getting it to a vote. But like I said, Florida is the one that comes to mind just in my efforts, because I'll get people from Florida to contact me and I'll say, hey, there's these groups out there. Try to contact them or form your own. We'll be glad to advise you on how to form your own and the path to take. And then interest kind of dies off.
At the Florida LP convention a few weeks ago, there was a big Flexit thing. I don't know what it was. They might have put it into their platform, the LP, but there was a big Flexit thing there, and they are trying to do something real. So I'm going to try to get in touch with them because there should be. Florida is increasingly conservative, increasingly pro-freedom, and they should have a strong Flexit movement. Now, if Ron DeSantis and Trump and Bongino and everyone else in Florida uses their voices for independence, they can secede. Because if DeSantis and Bongino and Trump all said do something, the conservatives will listen and we'll have every conservative in Florida supporting independence, and then it will happen. So I think it can happen, especially with Biden doing what he does every day.
I don't know if we're going to get a lot of support out of Trump. He, as much as I liked what he did on deregulation, for me, regulations are disgusting. I can't stand them. He did good there, but he still was very much attached to the whole DC structure. My thing, the way I see on him is, and it'd be great if he would come out in favor of it, but he still seems very much, oh, we can fix this and let's band together. We're going to change it. Well, all of our groups kind of came about because we realized that there is no change in it. It gets worse each year.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, if somebody could pick him off, then, hey, great. That's a voice that people listen to.
I do think it's important to say, not disagreeing with the analysis, you guys are much more closely following Trump than we do out here. We follow more like his things that annoy us versus anything else that he says. But Trump did say, or someone did say civil war, and he retweeted that. And I believe that was the first time since 1861 that an American president, sitting or former, has said anything about promoting civil war. So I get that he may not be where we want him to be, but that was pretty bold. And that was the first time that's happened in about 160 years.
And considering Biden and New York Attorney General Letitia James doing these indictments and subpoenas and trying to punish him and force him to come from Florida to New York for deposition, civil or criminal, I don't know. He should support more independence for that too. So again, every day DC is making us support independence more and more. I was going to write 100 reasons. I already have over 100 reasons for independence in an article on Liberty Block. So there are far more than 100 reasons. So I had to switch it to the top 100 reasons to support secession from DC. So yeah, there are too many reasons.
Something we've talked about here is that midterms are going to come. They're probably going to go to conservatives in the House and the Senate. That's the way that we look at it. I mean, who knows? I understand other people have different opinions. I get that. And I appreciate the information you gave me, Daniel. Out here in Cali, they're still convinced that it's going to be Republican takeover. Either way, there's going to be activity for secession. So if there is a Republican takeover, I can tell you California is going to flip out and be interested in CalExit again. If there's not a Republican takeover and Dems still stay in control, you can expect that there will be conservatives who are upset and more interested in secession. So we in California are expecting a lot of activity because we're pretty sure the House is going to go conservative. But even if we're wrong, somebody in our movement is going to win, because there will be renewed activity for secession. I mean, that's just the way it is in America now. Over the last 5 years, this transition to people used to be bitter and they'd get over it to it is now standard play that if your side loses, you start talking about secession. Like, that's normal now. So we can all expect some sort of uptick in secession coming out of midterm elections, no matter what or for who. Jason.
Well, and not only that, but also we're seeing from both the left and the right, whenever someone wins and someone loses, whoever wins says they won, whoever loses says they won. This is only going to compound things further.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I needed to say again, this is pretty awesome. We have the leaders of the CalExit movement, Jason Wright. He's meeting Cascadia today. That's kind of cool. And he's talking with the leaders of the Texas Nationalist Movement and the leaders of the New Hampshire Independence Movement. And so, you know, we have Yes California here speaking to 3 different independence movements on 3 separate sections of the continent on the same day. I'm wondering if there are other independence movements, liberal ones, who have that kind of reach. And like we say, we like to show that we're friends with conservatives. We don't agree with everything. I think Daniel Rice and Alu both know they don't agree with everything we do out in California. They don't want to live our way, but we don't want to live their way. And we've all agreed to, like, why can't we just, you know, you do it your way over there and I'll do it my way over here, and then we can be friends.
Have you guys tried getting in touch with Sarah Silverman or the many others on the left who support independence? She put out a really serious video saying she supports national divorce a few weeks ago, right?
I will keep trying. I will write that down. There's also Ron Perlman.
Yep, and lots of others.
So those were the 2 biggest lefties, celebrities to come out for this.
So can we all agree that next year for PorcFest, June of next year, everyone here must be there. Otherwise, I get to beat them up.
Yeah. Yes. Or we get beaten up. By the way, here's Daniel Rice email, the Texas Nationalist Movement. You want to contact Daniel, contact him at daniel.rice at the Texas Nationalist Movement. We're very proud to have our friends at the New Hampshire Independence Movement and the Texas Independence Movement, and hopefully meeting with Cascadia today. And you know, we're talking about how midterms are going to come, and we're really going to get into it. Any more comments, or can we get into some housekeeping business? We want to approve an ambassador to the New Hampshire.
I'd like to say one quick thing, and it's pretty much just a different way to say what you were saying about Texas, New Hampshire, California. We're all so different. The way I see it is that Texas and Texans have the right to be Texans and do with Texas as Texas feels like doing. Just as California and Californians have the right to have our California and California it up. We don't have to agree or disagree on anything other than agree that we all have the right to self-determination. If we can agree on that and set aside all of the rest of the polarizing factors, are you pro or anti LGBTQIA? Are you pro or anti-abortion? Are you team red or team blue? No, we get rid of all of that and we just stick with, I support your right to self-determination. It's as easy as that, folks. And, you know, this isn't for everyone in the meeting. This is for all of our viewers out there. It's that simple. I've got family that's from Texas. I've been to Texas a couple of times. There were some things I liked about Texas. Mainly the things I don't like about Texas are just policy. And that's because I grew up in California. And I know that a lot of that family, you know, they know California. They've come out here to California, well, come out to California a lot. And the things that they don't like about California, mostly just policy. All in all, we're all just human beings trying to live our lives, trying to do what we feel is right to each of us. And in our current system, we, as individuals, put forth our opinions to hopefully elect these people that should reflect what we want, our values. Well, with the federal government controlling everything, we've seen how Texas can't get what Texas wants. New Hampshire can't get what New Hampshire wants. California can't get what California wants. So, like Elliot said, there are too many reasons to, you know, call it quits with the federal government. There are more reasons than we could shake a stick at. So, rather than get mired down, bogged down, let's just focus on the fact that we're all human beings. We all have the right to choose. And, you know, Texas gets to choose for Texas. New Hampshire chooses for New Hampshire. California chooses for California. Hawaii chooses Hawaii. And we could actually have, you know, us Californians could have a better California. Texans could have a better Texas. New Hampshireites, New Hampshireans could have a better New Hampshire, right? And that's not better to me because I'm a Californian. Better to the people who are there, the people who are New Hampshire, the people who are Texas. So hopefully I've made that clear.
Yep, well said.
All right, let's do a couple bit of housekeeping before we get into some stuff. While everybody's here, I want to cover some of the big updates. One, Jason is in Northwest trying to meet with Cascadia today. We're also very appreciative of Daniel Rice of the Texas Nationalist Movement coming out and Alu Axman of the New Hampshire Independence Movement coming out. A little bit of housekeeping. So since Jason and I have retaken control of our social media channels, we are back in touch with 80,000 people. We were cut off when we left and had that nasty divorce. We now have full control over the Twitter and Facebook page. That's 60,000, about 55 to 60,000, and then an additional 30,000 emails, putting us back in touch with about 80,000 members. Very pleased to do that. We have also posted up at the top of Twitter and Facebook that it's under new management and that the previous guy is not coming back and can't make a post. And we've been getting some pretty good responses from that. Our traffic has gone up 300%. And we have had multiple members contact Jason and say, so the previous guy's gone and it's under new management, and Jason's talked with them directly. So word seems to be getting out that it is a new day, It's under new management. The old guy's not here. He's not coming back. And the posts aren't going to be like that. Pinning the post to the top seems to get it out. Our traffic going up 300% seems to be doing it. And Jason is also doing a great job of massaging the conversations along as we go. Our goal right now at Yes California is to be the dominant site about secession in America. Sorry, no offense, New Hampshire. No offense, Texas. Sorry, love. We can have peaceful competition. We want to be the dominant site about secession so that when midterms come, we dominate all the conversation on secession. We think there's going to be a ton of conversation on secession. Like I just said, whether it's left or right. And Yes, California wants to position ourselves with our 60,000 people on social media channels to be the dominant side of the conversation. However, we want partners. You know, we don't want just all Yes CA people on those sites. That's why I'm saying this while in New Hampshire and Texas is here. We want more cross traffic. As Silent Mike pointed out, this is to the rabbi. If all the websites link to each other, if people are constantly commenting to each other and putting links back to their site on our Facebook pages and on our Twitter pages, that raises the gravity of all the pages together. So major network site Texas, major network site New Hampshire, major network site California, the more interactions you get, Google figures out there's a lot of activity between these three hubs. Since there's a lot of activity and since Google is a profit company, it wants more eyeballs. So it goes, wow, I see a lot of conversations between these three nodes. I will promote that conversation to get even more eyeballs on it because I'm a greedy beast who wants as many eyeballs as I can. So we all win. The more we comment on each other's pages, the more we link to each other's pages, the more our websites are linked, the more we all raise in Google, and the more we all win. So I just want to put that out there. Thank you, Silent Mike. Continuing on. Yeah, our goals are to be the dominant site before midterms. Therefore, we need content creators and people to interact with the public and drive conversation. So we are trying to offer up our Yes California Facebook and Twitter pages for other people to be able to post. We've talked to Alo Axelman about that. We're open to offering that to the Texas Nationalist Movement. I'll allow you, Daniel, to talk to Jason about that. But we want to start having other people be able to post. You would have to run the post by Jason first, but you would have the ability to post. It would be based upon trust. Jason is the editor-in-chief, so he would have to approve of all the posts. But basically, we were thinking of, you know, when there's major secession news, like Trump says civil war is coming, that's important news for New Hampshire and Texas and California. And we don't care if the Texas Nationalist Movement posted on the Yes California CalExit page, Trump said civil war, because that's news that everybody cares about. So that's what we were looking at, is general news, general commentary about secession. And we'd like to invite everybody to be able to post on us. Yeah, Alo.
On the Liberty Block, I know it doesn't get 1 billion views a day, but on Liberty Block under allies, I have all of our allies. So any website that supports freedom or independence, we link to. So if you go to libertyblock.com/allies, ALLIES, you'll see I link to TNM, CalExit, all that stuff, all the other New Hampshire independent sites, every independent site, and every pro-liberty site. And everyone should do that, obviously.
Let me show them real quick. This is what he means. So here's Liberty Block, allies, and he has everybody linked. So on his page relinks out to everybody else. So that's one way to do it, is if you have a web page, if you have sites, you relink out. And that is on the libertyblock.com site for allies, is what he's talking about. So cross traffic is definitely good for us. Let me show you one last thing, if I may. Right, projected funding. We are looking at a non-fungible coin. That is not an actual currency. It's a non-fungible coin. We are working with a website guy, A. Eternia, out of the Midwest. He's also kind of a secession advocate, looking at printing physical non-fungible tokens that have some sort of image of CalExit. We're also going to be filing for a 501c4, not C3, to collect donations, because we want to file an initiative right after midterms when we think the activity will be good. And we will also be providing our online certification in secession, where we will be the only group in all of America, the only secession advocates to offer online courses educating people, lay people in secession. Those will be our three major fundraising activities going forward. Alan.
The more podcasts that support independence, the better for everyone. And podcasts, considering it's audio only and video exists now, I thought would be killed like the radio star. But podcasts are thriving more than ever before. So podcasts are definitely worth doing. I know. So Liberty Block has a regular podcast once or twice a week, every Wednesday, and then I do shows roughly once a week on average as well. And we support independence in every show. And now, Marcus, you with CalExit, I know you have pretty good videos on YouTube. Do you also upload that to a podcaster? And if not, can you work with someone who knows podcasts to make sure you do that? Because if you guys make a podcast, that's one more good podcast out there that'll get subscribers that's talking about independence and normalizing it.
I do not, but I know that I should.
So let's talk off air and we'll get you on podcasting.
Yeah, I do need to. I've heard that about the National Divorce Talk Raw show. I do, that a lot of people said this was good and they want it in podcast format. So,
Daniel, what's up?
Same thing here. We're in the process of developing a podcast. So as I've talked to a couple of you behind the scenes, we're going to want to interview pretty much each of you at some point. We're still working out format and that type of stuff, but yeah, we'll get in on that action too.
Podcasts are popular, and if we had a podcast where the leaders of secession movements in America were talking to each other routinely, that would be hot. And currently there's nothing like that happening. So our meeting right now is the closest thing to a podcast of independence movement leaders meeting. And it's cool, but it's not the same as a professional podcast, which we could easily do. So just saying, the more we network, it's like the rabbi said. He had a quote, but basically from the rabbi, if several states on different sides of the fence all support peaceful separation, they can't be discounted as nuts so easily. Well said. Brilliant. And so we are, yes, California's dedicated to be on a podcast. So, if there's podcasts where we can get independence leaders all together and we're talking about we could debate is midterms going to go left or right? And how do we think Texas versus California would react? That's something that 538 and Politico would be interested in watching, because you're actually looking into the insight of different secession movements and how they may react to a future event, which they themselves can't predict. So we would love to be on your podcast. I'll just leave it there. And the rabbi is totally, totally correct. Let me see here if we got everything. This here's our process, Facebook traffic up, reconnecting with members. We're going to be the dominant site for secession conversation in America before midterms, when secession will explode again. We need people to help make content, post content to our site. Please contact Jason. We're open for New Hampshire independents who we're already working with. We're open to Texas independents. You would have to run the post past Jason first, but we want to show that we're willing to be partners with all secession advocates, and general knowledge is good for all of us. Jason.
Yeah, so just very quickly, the whole gotta run it by me thing, the only thing that I would consider saying no to, other than stuff that's filled with hate speech or something, something that Facebook would probably even say no to. Other than stuff like that, the only thing that I would probably say no to is if one of the groups was doing a recruitment drive. As long as it's just, share the information, an example, Texas Nationalist Movement goes and posts, and yes, California shares it and says, hey, oh my goodness, pay attention to what Texas Nationalist Movement is saying here. This is important. This is how we support each other, and it has nothing to do with any of these, divisive kind of factors. So it does sound a little, just hearing Marcus saying, you're going to have to run the post by Jason. It does sound a little scary, but I'm a reasonable person. I'm middle ground. I'm not team red or team blue. I hate them both, but equally.
Yeah, it's not egregious. It's just we have a formal process. So basically, we're going to trust you. Basically, we want general stuff, but as a last minute quality check. So Jason, please make sure to send Daniel information on Cascadia. I'm going to email both of you guys during the show. You'll get an email from me, Jason. If you could just reply to the email and get that to Daniel. Also, big news. Daniel's here. So Daniel Miller asked to be on the Yes California Congress email list. Isn't that right, Daniel Rice?
Are you talking about the email I sent you earlier?
Yeah, just to start
No,
including.
that's just, you've been sending to my personal. I'd like to go through the official TNM. That way, if any of them want to pull, that way, if I get hit by a bus and they need to download my email, they can see what we've been talking about.
Yeah, I think that's great. I just think it's great that TNM asked to have more direct communication with Yes California. So I just wanted to point that out.
No, as far as that, it's still my email. My role is basically to be like you're about to do with your ambassador thing. I'm sort of the Secretary of State within federal terms of the TNM.
And that's awesome. Okay, so let's go on to the first order of business. Last week, we proposed for ambassadors from Yes California. Daniel Rice, as you can see here, is an ambassador from the Texas Nationalist Movement to Yes California. CEO Jason Wright felt that we needed to elevate our professionalism and also start appointing ambassadors to other movements. That's one of the directions that he made. When Jason came in, he was very big on Yes California contacting other movements and upping our formal recognition and contact with them. So that's something he's focused on. Great hat. So Jason wanted to have ambassadors. The first person to volunteer was Rabbi Stephen Axelman. And Rabbi Axelman asked to be the ambassador to New Hampshire and Texas. We talked about that last week. We emailed all 30 members of the Congress notes saying that was proposed. We also sent out a video of last week's meeting to all 30 members of the Congress, and we said you had a week to oppose this or also ask to be an ambassador yourself. Nobody opposed. So we have zero opposition to the rabbi. So basically we can officiate now that Rabbi Stephen Axelman will be the official Yes California ambassador to the New Hampshire Independence Movement, who's on the video with us now, and the Texas Independence Movement, who's also on the video with us now. So that's official, and I want to say thank you. Rabbi, I know you have a strep throat or something, but maybe you could come on camera and just wave for a second.
Mazel tov.
If you could wave or look happy about the job, the idea. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Once you tell him how much of a raise he's getting, he'll be happy.
Yeah, you're going to go from 0.0 to 0.0.
Hey, that's my joke.
Adjusted for inflation. Hey, we want to get paid. That's why we're talking about 501c4, non-fungible token, offering courses online that we can charge. So, so Rabbi, you are now ambassador. I will add that to the notes. Just want to put up a note here from Daniel Rice. Daniel Rice says to Jason, don't worry about approval. We have a formal approval process at TNM, so it's perfectly appropriate process in our view. Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it. Rabbi says thank you. So that's done. Rabbi is now the ambassador to the New Hampshire and Texas Independence Movements. Okay, the next order.
And he's officially on the FNHI board, by the way.
FHI board, yes.
FNHI, he's on the board officially, so that's good too.
Yes. Now we're going to cover the brochure for the online courses. Let me show you quickly. Now we already had Jason look at this and the rabbi look at this. The rabbi already gave me some edits. Thank you, Rabbi, for the edits. I will add those in. So this is the courses that we're going to offer. This is the version the rabbi edited. So I'm going to fix that. I see it. I will make all those edits. It's only a few. But basically, this is what we want to offer in the next few days. It's called the Yes California Online Courses in Secession. What must go up must come back down. And the same holds true for empires throughout human history. Civilizations have repeated this cyclical rise and fall pattern. The Macedonians, the Greeks, the Byzantines, the Ethiopians, and many others have established rich, powerful, and expansive empires over centuries just to see them collapse. Noted British military scholar Sir John Glubb estimated that empires last for an average of 250 years, some longer, such as the case of the Roman Empire, and some shorter. It just so happens that the United States has existed for 245 years. Are we approaching the end of an era? What is the state of the empire? We already endured one civil war. Is another one on the horizon? We will prepare you to answer those questions. Some graphics explaining who the course is for. It's online. It's self-paced. It's based on experts. You get a certificate. It's about 8 to 12 hours of 2 days commitment. Who should attend? People who want the knowledge and insight you need to confidently discuss secession, independence, and self-determination in North America. Created and refined by the top experts on the topic of California secession with over 10 years of experience, the courses discussed will bring insight and understanding not previously taught in any classroom. Some of the courses we want to offer are secession of the Constitution, the Civil War, Texas versus White, disputes in the Supreme Court, absent laws and legality, state ballot initiatives versus the federal attorney general. I mean, yeah, there you go. Better view of the courses. Self-determination and the modern world. We'll look at what self-determination means from the UN. We'll look at how it relates to multiple independence movements around the world, so you get some idea of international law. So this first section is going to talk about domestic law in America and California law. Then the second section is going to talk about international law and the UN. Then the third section is going to talk about how California was conquered and is actually a colony, and it was forced to be a state against international law and against the normal state ascension process, and what opportunities for secession legally that includes. Finally, we will talk about how California already operates as a nation and already has many people saying it should be a nation, including elected officials. We will get the rabbi's edits on that. I will get that to you, Jason, today or tomorrow, and we will be able to post that up on our social media sites. The flyer will be posted, and we will be following up with online courses. The courses are already developed. We just need to get the course software and host them. It's about 36 to 60 pages of material, but you have to break it up into bite-sized nuggets so people can digest it easy. So courses are already developed, graphics are already developed, research is already developed. You have to put it into a course hosting software, which we're going to use as our main website. So we're not going to have a yescalifornia.org standalone website. We're going to go through like Podia or eLearning or eTutorial and have our online courses offered there and host our website there because they have more secure hosting. Okay.
Will the courses be free?
Yes, but well, I mean, you pay for the package and it's included. So basically they give you everything to launch a website or a couple websites and have the online courses available online, but it's a flat fee.
Will they be free for the students of the courses?
If we allow it, we were going to charge, but we were going to give scholarships to people that we like. So people that we like would get, and this is the way they suggest you do it, is that apparently if you offer courses for free, they're seen as of no value and people don't want to watch them. If you add a price tag to it, over $20, they were saying like $49.95, you get way more people checking it out because they think it must be a value since you charge so much for it. So I didn't make that. I did a lot of market research and that's what they said. At the same time, we can obviously offer some scholarships, basically free versions of the course for allies who might be willing to do a review of the courses that we could post up on our site to help us. So it's win-win, right? You get a free course. You say, hey, the course was okay. We post that up on our end. Win-win, etc. We're doing this both to get people educated and to raise the profile of the discussion across America and to raise money. And if we thought that if offering it free was going to get more people to watch, then we would do that. But everything in the research says if you offer it free, people automatically think it's of no value and they won't even bother to look at it. So that kind of killed that thing. And they also said, don't make it $5 so they view like you put that $5 worth of effort into it. You start pricing it as something like, you know, we had a fleet of professors work on this. Everybody's like, oh my God, I need to check into that. That's what the market shows. So for allies, it's going to be free. We'll get you scholarships, but for everybody else, we're going to charge probably $49.95. That's what the market suggests. It's not the price out of anybody. It seems to be the price that says this is important and we spent time to make a quality product, which we are. We've been in development of these for about 6 months. Jason.
Yeah, you beat me to it right there. I was going to say it's been almost a year that we have been developing this, and you know, it's not something we took lightly. It's not something that we thought for 1 second, oh, we can just copy and paste and throw some things together. People eat it up. It was actually the opposite. Well, this is a lot of tedious information. A lot of people do not dig on the tedium. And I get that. I mean, you know, I can handle the tedium, but I don't love it. But this tedious information being so important, how do we get it out to the people? What exactly do we tell the people? We thought about all of this. These courses are specially designed so that if you want a better understanding of the legality of this national divorce, self-determination, peaceful, amicable separation, secession, independence, true independence. If you want a better understanding of it, what it is, what it isn't, how to go about it if you so choose, these courses are designed specifically for that. And again, you know, almost a year went into putting it all together. So, and huge kudos to you, Marcus. Huge kudos. Marcus there did a lot of the pulling of the information, getting the links, the references, all of the most tedious stuff of the tedious stuff.
I'm a dork. I'm a data researcher. I mean, that's how I got started. I wasn't even president. I was the director of research first. Thank you, Jason, so much. While Alu's here and Daniel Rice is here, I wanted to cover a third section. So Jason and I have talked about this extensively, and we have agreed that we want to do this in a particular manner. Now, obviously, for big decisions, we have to run it by the Congress, but for little things and doing normal daily business, we just make decisions, go out there. But we have to report back to Congress. So it has been important to many of the Congress members that, yes, California try to work with the other CalExit organizations. There was some bad blood in the past. When Jason and I took over, we believed that, you know, that's what the members want. So maybe we have our own opinions, but we got to try, because the members made it very clear this was something they were interested in and they wanted us to pursue. And we said, well, we will at least try to reach out to the other CalExit groups and come back together. Now that Lewis is gone, now that Lewis can't be posting again, now that he doesn't have access to the sites, that was important to our membership, so we did. We are ready to present the results of that. I had been in close contact with Sean Forbes, who's supposedly going to be taking over for the California National Party. I like Sean. Sean was a nice guy. Sean was always polite and courteous to me. That being said, I'm not going to offer my opinion, and neither is Jason. But we want to show everybody, including the Congress, and especially you two guys that are in rival organizations, here's what the CNP told us we would have to agree to in order to work with them. Now, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to read it, and I would be curious from Liberty Bloc and Texas Nationalist Movement if you would ever agree to these terms on your own. So I'm going to say nothing, and then I'll ask you for your opinion. Let me just show you what CNP showed us, and then you can say, hey, that seems totally fair and reasonable, and you should do that, or whoa, whatever you call us. I'm not saying. Same thing for the CalExit Congress members. Jason and I have strong opinions on this. We are not offering our opinions. You, Congress, can come to whatever decision you want, and if you feel it's a great idea, you can tell me and Jason, and we will have to move on it. Jason.
Because I'm so facially expressive, in order to be
Cut off your
of
camera.
the utmost
cut it.
fairness, I am muting
Yeah.
and turning off my camera
Yeah.
for this portion, but I'm still here.
Okay. I've learned to have a straight face where I can go like this. Super serious. Okay, here we go. Talking to Sean Forbes, CNP. These are the terms that they gave us. I'll show those to you now without reaction. So can everybody see this? It should be a Word document. It says, yes, CA must admit Louis Marinelli.
Yep. I see it.
Okay, yeah, I can see. You guys can see it. So these are the terms from California National Party to Yes California that we have to agree to in order to work with them. Number one, Yes California must admit Louis Marinelli had a negative impact on the movement and cannot be considered an ally or representative of the Caliexit movement ever again. Yes California leadership must be on record saying Marinelli cannot be accepted in capacity as a future spokesperson or in any future leadership role. This has to happen in two different separate articles or online settings. For example, the National Red Star Report, other podcasts, etc. Yes, CA must be on the record 2 times concerning disavowing Marinelli in the media. As I already pointed out, we've already done this 5 times. So we already met this condition. Also, I'm willing to go as president on anybody's podcast, basically. I mean, there's a few exceptions, and talk about this. So if anybody wants me to go on their podcast, there's a few lines, but we can do that. We've also posted to the top of our Facebook and Twitter page to 60,000 people that Louis isn't around, isn't going to come around, and can't post anymore, and has no ability to post anymore. I have also said to 20 different newspapers that Louis being in Russia during the time was a horrible, horrible PR image on all of us. And we've also posted on our social media pages that Louis isn't going to be the rep, can't be the rep, won't be coming back. So I view it as we already met condition 1. All right, let's move up. Number 2, yes, California needs to state that it is not a political party and will never endorse individuals or candidates. Only the CNP can endorse a candidate. Yes, California can make independent endorsements of policy positions that do not directly contradict the current CNP platform. So we cannot endorse candidates at all. We cannot be a political party at all. We can make policy statements, but our policy statements have to align with what the CNP says are good policies in their policy platform. So we will no longer be able to make policy statements as we choose. We'll have to compare them to their platform, and only if they align, then we can make a statement on policy. Other than that, we can't say anything about policy, and we can't say anything about any politicians or any political parties. Only CNP can endorse candidates. CNP's purpose is to run local and federal candidates. CNP is the only political party promoting independence in California. Okay. Yes, CA and CNP have to have a joint statement that yes, CA's purpose is to push a referendum on CA independence only, as well as to promote laws that help California. So we would have to agree that we will only pursue an initiative and that we're not going to do anything else, and we will have to lock ourselves in and limit the activities that we can participate in. Yes, CA commentary and actions should only concern itself with issues concerning the federal government and the state government when it comes to laws and proposals. So we will not be able to comment on any other policy that's not federal or state. Yes, CA can only support ideas or personalities. So again, we can't support any particular politician. So if a politician that we like says they support Calexit, we can't mention it or discuss them. So when Gavin Newsom or Jerry Brown or Arnold Schwarzenegger says nation state, well, that's a personality, so we can't really cover that. Or when Donald Trump says civil war, well, he's a personality, we can't really cover that. So we could just strictly boring policy, which we do some. Yes, CA leadership must also be in the CNP. So everybody who's a leader at Yes CA has to also automatically be a member of CNP. You have no choice. All new elections to Yes CA must be transparent and results shared in the next election cycle with the CNP leadership. So when we have elections, we have to directly report those elections to the CNP. We also have to hold a new election in 3 months. So the election that put me and Jason in power would be illegitimate and void. We would have to redo the elections and redo the whole thing. It doesn't matter how we did it before, because they felt that we did not have transparency in the way that we held these locations. Also, they reserved the right to tell us how to run the elections in order to, quotes, promote and showcase transparency. So new elections in 3 months based upon mechanisms they decide. All media contacts and social media must be shared on a regular basis. So we have about 30,000 contacts. They have about 400. We would have to give them all 30,000 contacts, and in return, we'd only get 400. We would also have to get permission from them before we did any media, TV, or radio interviews, and we'd have to coordinate what we were going to tell reporters before we actually got to speak to reporters. Our email list, again, of 30,000 would have to be shared. We'd only give about 400 from them. In return, we could post on their social media and they could post on our social media. I will point out that their social media has a couple thousand people, whereas we have 60,000. The leadership of YesCA will be given a position on the leadership committee to be a spokesperson for YesCA. So whoever the current president is could be on the CNP leadership committee as YesCA. So YesCA would become under the leadership of CNP and would have to follow the leadership of CNP to even run our own organization. YesCA must denounce the Russian invasion of Ukraine and Vladimir Putin's regime in order to dispel any notion, justified or otherwise, about Russian collusion. CNP has been denounced as Russian assets as well and has to continue the same denouncements over time. Yeah, we have said that. So let me say it again. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is bad. Putin regime is bad. Putin shouldn't have invaded Ukraine. That's bad. We've said that a lot. Never said anything other than that. YesCA must give up its name, and basically its logo can't be associated with the way that it looked before and has to totally continue with a new brand name. So those are the conditions. We don't get to keep our name. We have to share our email list. We only get 400 back. We don't get to post what we want. We have to run ideas past them. We can't talk about politicians or names or half of the news we cover. It can only be policy descriptions. Jason and I could conceivably be removed from office. The election we held was invalid. We have to be revoted on in 3 months, and the process has to be decided by an external organization. So thoughts, feelings? Daniel Rice, is this something that, you know, the Texas nationalist movement would agree to if an organization approached you guys, in your opinion?
You want my notes on what I just read?
Be free and say whatever you think.
Let's see. So there were, of the 10, there were 8 in question. I came up with 9 nopes, including the last one of F nope, which was not part of the 10. Everyone I have as a nope, and I'm not speaking as leadership. I speak from my position. I don't speak for directly the TNM, and that goes to point 4, where it would be making you subservient to them. TNM, even though we're an organization, Daniel Miller consults with people regularly. He has a team of insiders that he turns to regularly saying, hey, what's your opinion? What direction should we go? At the end of the day, he's been the one doing this for 26 plus years. Our organization's been around for almost 17 officially at this point. It's his organization. He can tell me to get lost tomorrow. He's not going to go subservient to anybody, not after all the hard work he's done. 420 some odd thousand supporters. If you're at 300,000, there's no benefit. I can't see any. And I'd say, hell no. You don't give up control to somebody. It almost sounds like you're negotiating with terrorists there. Not to be too forward about it.
Comments. That's why I didn't tell you anything.
I don't see any benefit in any of that. For number 2, I have endorsements must be allowed. Our example, when we had our independence bill on the legislature last time, we basically told any We told the politicians openly, if you come out and speak against us, we will oppose you. We'll put up our own candidates if we have to. We actually did endorse people running in this last election. We pushed as many as we could. We didn't win all of them. I don't even think we won half, but we did get some of our people into positions. And not just fully elected positions. Some of them are party positions, but that still matters because that's where we grow our future elected politicians. But to say that you can't be free to endorse somebody, that's just putting handcuffs on you. What if the person's like, yes, we need to do Cal Exit right now, and what if their approval process is going to take a month? You should be able to come out and say, hey, look at what this person just did. You know, it seems ludicrous what they're asking. It seems like they're totally trying to take you in and absorb you as an organization.
I can't offer expressions, so we are just here to listen to what you feel, sir, and your honest.
Yeah. That's how I'm
looking. Okay,
that's how I'm looking. You're trying to open the door. So I don't know too much of the history why there was a riff originally, but it seems like if you're trying to reach out, in one sense, yeah, every organization should try to protect its own. You know, if one of the other Texas groups reached out to us, we would probably say, well, here's the rules we operate under. If you can accept that, then hey, welcome, let's join up. But that's part of what I'm doing and why we're trying to do this sharing links and stuff is if you're in agreement with self-determination, then we don't really care. That's why it's not a secret. A lot of Texas nationalist movement, we're pretty conservative on a lot of our political views, but our overriding goal is independence and self-determination. And if California, who might be 180 degrees opposite of our views, when you put them in two different buckets, if they want self-determination, we're not going to say, oh, Texas gets self-determination, but not California. Kind of our only thing is we don't deal with groups that advocate for any type of violent overthrow, but we don't care if you're a liberal and want to have California have same-sex marriage and abortion. That's your business to determine. That would be like us going to Australia right now saying, okay, well, you need to follow this rule and this rule. We know you're not part of America, but you know, we could care less what you come up with internally. It only matters that you want independence. That's the position we come from. So for you to not be able to endorse somebody is ridiculous because you're an independence organization and you need to be able to endorse somebody if they're worth endorsing.
I want to go to the rabbi a little bit, and I'll come back to you, Daniel Rice. Rabbi, looking at these terms, do they seem, what do you feel about them? How do you perceive what this means? I don't want to interject any opinions into you. Looks good, sir? Looks not good? What are your thoughts or feelings?
I'm trying to mull over what Daniel just said because his subtlety made it hard to clearly understand his position on it. But basically, he said almost everything I would have said, which means he's brilliant. And I was actually involved in a relatively similar situation about which I'll give no details, but there was a discussion of a merge, and it really wasn't a merge. Daniel used the word absorb. I used the word swallow. It was, we will be happy to merge with you if you cease to exist and give us all of your assets. And we're like, what? So what exactly is in it for Yes California? And exactly, I'm not exactly sure how these conditions came about. What you said, you want to work with them and they sent you this? How did this happen?
Yeah. Alu, thanks for coming back. I'll show the conditions again. So basically, Yes California members wanted us to reach out and see if we could work with other Cal Exit groups. The other major large Cal Exit group is the California National Party. I reached out and have been talking with Sean Forbes, who's the leader of the California National Party. And Sean was very accommodating and very professional, not trying to say anything other than that. However, what we did was we gave Sean the ability to post on our Yes California Facebook page under the conditions we talked about, where it had to be about general secession stuff, news that applied to everybody, not promoting a particular organization, and it had to be run by Jason first. The moment we gave Sean access to the Facebook page, like, because I'd been telling him this is coming. And then about 2 weeks later, we actually figured out everything. We got him access. And the day after we gave him access, we got this letter back going, okay, well, if we're going to work with you, here's the terms. I never told Sean that I was agreeing to terms. Sean said he would need to run things by his superiors, of course, but I was never told, and there's going to be a contract with multiple terms that you have to agree to for us to work together. His conversation with me was friendly. Let's keep it light. Let's see if we can just have some general, you make a post here and I'll make a post there. And if it works out, then 6 months from now, we'll come back together. You know, gradual, introductory, small, baby steps. And in return, after I told him what I was going to do. I came through with my word. I got Jason's approval. We posted, got him access to Facebook. And then in 24 hours, there was this terms that I'd never heard about. I wasn't told about. I'd never seen before. And it basically was a very different tone than the way Sean speaks. So
But Marcus,
that's not how Sean talks.
those are terms to do what? Terms to work together? Terms to go out to dinner? What are they terms for?
Yeah, let me show them again.
Well, if I may, real quick, it's the same thing that Alu currently has, that we want to get Dan Rice with, right? It's just, hey, we want to work together, and in the spirit of, like, kind of friendship, we having, like, roughly 80,000 people in our circles will allow you to post stuff into our circles so our 80,000 people can see what you're saying.
So
And
basically,
in exchange for them getting to use our circles, they want all this.
yeah, some people used to say who died and made them God. I'm just confused.
Well, let me show you the list. So, Rabbi, to answer your question, this is what we get. Item 7 is if we do everything they say, the thing that we get is we can post on their social media pages. Their social media pages are about 1/20th or 1/30th the size of ours. But that's what we would get, to answer your question. Alo, I wanted you to see this again. These were the terms.
Yeah, you should just email it to Alu. We could read it.
I saw the first few. They're pretty
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's pretty sad. That's all. I don't know why anybody, again, Daniel took all my thunder, which I'm appreciative since I don't want to abuse my voice. Why wouldn't you work together if your common goal is self-determination? Who cares about the other stuff? But thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Alu, does these seem like good terms to you? You have to share your email list. You have to hold new elections. Your officers have to be
Most of it is pretty crazy. I think the only thing that's reasonable there is that they're the party that runs candidates, since you don't want to be a party anyway. I think you should probably be able to endorse candidates if you want, but running candidates, if they wanted to have that exclusive right to run candidates as the California National Party, I think that one is the closest to being reasonable. The rest of the conditions are all pretty bananas. It kind of seems like they are either authoritarian or crazy or don't want to work with you. So I would keep working on those relationships.
I have to say I agree.
Yeah, that comment right there from Daniel Rice is exactly what I was thinking when I first read it. They seem like they want to not work with us enough that they're going to basically, unlike the mafia where they make you an offer you can't refuse, this is the opposite, where they make you an offer you cannot accept. And that does speak very clearly to what their motivations may or may not be.
Well, there you have it. We did not prep them. Yeah, I'll call on you 1 second, Daniel, but just real quick, I want to point out what the viewers saw. We didn't prep anybody. We didn't even tell them we were covering this. Here's what the Texas Nationalist Movement representative said. Here's what the New Hampshire Independence Movement representative said. That's their opinion. that was not what we told them. And then the rabbi seems to agree. And also, Jason and I didn't prep the rabbi, tell him we were doing this, so we could get his honest reaction too. Daniel.
To go on what Jason said, the mafia at least lets you get to keep something.
That is a great point. At least the mafia lets you keep existing as long as you work with them, right?
Your opinions, Jason and I did not offer opinion. We're going to show this to the group and let them see what everybody thought, and they can make up whatever decisions they want. And if they think it's a great idea, then I guess Jason and I will have to go back to the negotiating board. But if anybody's watching you three's conclusions, wow.
Well, and so Silent Mike just made a very interesting point in
yeah,
the
I'm
chat.
gonna post it up. I love Silent Mike. He always says, by the way, Rabbi, Silent Mike was the one who backed you up. And he said, if we get everybody having all our web pages linked like the rabbi's talking about, it raises the Google profile of everybody. So Silent Mike backed you up. Silent Mike, why don't we submit a counter offer? That's what you meant, right, Jason?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we have the option, right? We could consider it. We could not consider it. I think weighing it out in my mind, if we do, what might we counter offer, and do we really think that they would accept? If we don't, it's pretty much done and over. It's just that it does kind of look a little bit defeatist, I think. So I am slightly more in favor of counter, and I'm tempted as the CEO. I'm just gonna throw it out there to the Congress here. I'm tempted to say our counteroffer should be that there are no conditions other than what we set originally. They can go ahead and utilize our 80,000 person web. And in exchange, the only thing they have to do is follow the couple of simple guidelines. No recruitment drives for your organization. Stuff got to be pertinent to, self-determination, independence, national divorce, whatever. And, then the standard no hate speech stuff, no violent stuff, the usual. Would Congress be amenable to that if we counter with that? Or should we consider something else? I'm open to suggestions.
I say you make the counter and we present it at the next meeting.
Can I ask a stupid question? Why is the first move towards a relationship posting on each other's Facebook pages? That seems like an interesting thing. When you approach someone, I wouldn't approach a girl and say as the first thing, let's post on each other, get a permission to post on each other's pages. Just a kind of weird thing. Kind of like a very private thing, but also just an interesting thing. There are other things that could be the first step to rebuilding a relationship that in the past may have had issues. And it's interesting. Like it's great that you guys trust me to post on the Facebook page, and I think you can trust me. I would post pretty much nothing ever besides for like very standard things about national divorce and independence. But you guys have been working with me for a few years. But as far as them, I think the first step to build a relationship should be like just propose. Why don't we unofficially work together and like have open lines of communication, or I don't know. You can make something semi-official, like every 2 weeks, let's exchange an email. Every 4 weeks, let's have a phone call with each other. That could be a first step to a relationship. I just thought it was really interesting that you or the CNP thought the first step to a relationship should be granting each other permission to post on your big Facebook page. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was my idea. I was just trying to find something that was really low-hanging fruit and the least debatable thing out there. Because if I went to them and said, let's make a joint statement, oh my God, huge committee over. If I said we're doing a joint event, they're going to go, well, that means we're sitting next to you. So we're going to need to, this, and that. I was trying to avoid the list that they sent us. by going, here's just a real simple, you get to make a post on our site, right? That's us giving you something. That's us putting ourselves out there first. It just seemed to me like the lowest hanging, least controversial thing we could offer them, because a joint statement or a joint event would be a huge, they're going to debate with all their people what this means, how it is, and give these terms. And I wanted to avoid these terms. Now, it still ended up with getting terms anyways, but I was at least shocked by these terms going, wow.
What do you think of the idea of a first step? I understand that's an olive branch. That's a great olive branch. But what do you think of the first one being asking if they are interested in a monthly or bi-monthly call with you and Sean Forbes, or with anyone, or with me or my dad or any other person? Like that could be, I think, a great first olive branch. It's hard for them to counter because getting access to Facebook page is a big thing. It's like giving my wife access to my bank account. It would take years to do. Whereas asking for a phone call every few weeks is not a very big ask. And I can't imagine they would say no or freak out. They might say no, but they're not going to freak out on you and kick your butt if you ask for a phone call once a month to work together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really liking that. I see the potential, like how we've got Texas, California, New Hampshire all represented here right now. We could have a little addition and have another head of another organization. It would kind of, raise the profile of the meeting, like, 3 movements heads, and then 4 movements heads, and then 5, right? Like, it could potentially start a bit of a trend. The worst case scenario, they say no. Best case scenario, they come in, maybe join us for a Cal Exit Congress session, maybe once a month or something. It's just, if they're a non-voting member or even just a guest, right? Do we give them the floor here and there to, present ideas or not? Would we say have some sort of mandate, right? Whichever one of the 4 meetings per month, right? As long as you show up to one. Or are we going to be a little more loose about it? In which case they might not show up at all. There are some interesting things to think about, but I do see potential for that, for sure.
I'll definitely add it to the notes. And I would nominate Jason. Basically, that if they agreed that basically CNP leadership would have to have a monthly call with Yes California leadership, and I want to get it known that, Jason, you're the CEO, because, Sean kept coming to me and I was like, that's cool. And that, I appreciate being recognized, but, guys, a lot of this more formal stuff is with Jason now. So I'd like to force the point, like, you guys want to work with us, you're going to be on the phone with our top dog. And that's Jason. And if you can do it, then you can. If you can't, or you don't want to talk to him, then fine. Then you're not talking to us at all. That's where I'm at. That's my opinion. Thoughts, feelings? Okay, then we'll do that. Well, I'm going to write up the notes.
Marcus? I got to say my piece.
Yes, please.
I'm a psychotherapist and a mediator by trade. And the way I operate is, if you're not willing to sit down and have a cup of coffee with me, we're not going to be able to work together well. I think the reason, I can't speak for Daniel Rice, although I think he's been a friend of ours for quite a long time. I consider myself a friend of all of you guys. And I think the reason we work together is because we're friends or friendly. And if you're not willing to get on the phone or a Zoom meeting with me and just shoot the bull and relax, it's not going to work. Okay. It may be a business relationship at the very best, but it's never going to be any kind of marriage. I don't see anything fruitful ever coming out of negotiating like you're doing a hostile takeover of a company. if you can't get along as human beings, I don't know how it's going to work. Go ahead, Daniel.
And that's where I was going to go with my comments,
second.
and especially like Mike is saying, they could be approaching it like two companies. One company, it's like, hey, we want them. They could be going in super high. You don't go in with what you want. You go in with more than what you want, so you have stuff to give away. They may be doing that, saying, hey, we're willing to give away 0.3, 4, 7, and 8 or whatever, just to see what, if you're dumb enough to take the offer, great, they benefit. But they may be already willing to come down in what they're offering. And as far as like the Facebook thing goes, all of our groups, we reserve the right. We can still pull. We have the moderators. We can pull any post that's wrong. We get some of these people that want to be cowboys and they're like, no, they're coming across the Red River. Let's get the ARs fired up. We're like, no, that ain't how we talk. That gets pulled. Same thing. You can still share Facebook, but you still reserve the right to monitor your own page. You own the page. TNM owns our page. Anybody that gets out of control, we pull the post. If they get out of control too much, we delete their access. It's a trust thing. You build trust over time.
Right. All I'm saying is if you're entering a relationship on that basis, you're not going to have a relationship. And it's really,
Right.
really hard to work together if you don't. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and especially if you're saying, Marcus, that he's pretty reasonable on the phone, and when you talk to him, but then they come in with this. Somebody else may have said, hey, you need to approach him with this. So he might not have in his mind that I want this. Somebody else may be saying that. So yeah,
An unseen hand.
if they say, no, all 10 right now, we're not talking until all 10, then yeah. But yeah, like the rabbi says, see if they're willing to talk. If they're willing to talk, then you have somewhere to go with it.
That's why I like phone calls. They're always way better.
Okay, we'll propose it for Jason to them. I'll add that in the notes. We'll come back to that next week. The rabbi is approved as an ambassador to New Hampshire and Texas independence. I'm going to include the CNP terms in an email to Congress just so they can see it along with the video so they can take a look. We'll come back to that next week. I will also fix the course brochure based upon the rabbi's edits, and I will get that out. So Jason will conceivably propose a counteroffer. So I'll put all that in the notes. That'll come out today or tomorrow morning at the latest. We're going to have the notes from today. We're going to announce the rabbi's position. We're going to have the new brochure go out. They'll be perfect. When it goes out on email, we can start posting it, Jason. And we will also talk about how Jason is going to try to at least be available for a phone call and perhaps make a counter offer. Am I missing anything that I need to put in the notes? Was there something that we're like, oh, we need to cover? I think I got all the big stuff. I've been making tedious notes, so pretty sure I didn't miss anything, but maybe I did. If I did, correct me in public in the email. People are like, oh, I emailed you privately. Don't do that. Email everybody. Go like, oh, actually, it's not September 15th. It's September 20th. I don't care. I'm just doing my best to get the data out. So, Jason, with your permission, I like to cover one section, and that's that in the CNP list, they were saying we have to admit the history about Lewis. I'd like to do a transparent review of the history of Lewis in about 2 minutes, with your permission.
My one highly unreasonable condition that you should not agree to whatsoever, being facetious there, as long as you can show that one part from that video from Nick Pagan, the video where Theo Slater and Louis Marinelli are both decked out in Yes California shirts, standing side by side, talking, being friendly. Or maybe the CNP convention where Louis Marinelli is standing there in Yes California gear, behind their podium, talking with them, giving them direction because he was like, the leader at that point.
Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. I know what you're talking about. I just emailed it to myself. Yeah, let me see if I can pull that up. Oh, here we go. All right, I'll do a share screen real quick and show you all. And then I do want to show you guys something on the transparent. Okay, this was the video. Let me try to go to, that's a former member, NorCal Nick. I'm trying to find the footage Jason is talking about. Nick talks for a little while. There's the brochure. Oh, there it is. So that is Louis Marinelli in a Yes California shirt behind a sign for the California National Party, speaking at a California National Party event. So I think that's partly what Jason is talking about. Let me see if I can find some more. Yep, there he is, California National Party. There's me speaking in a Yes shirt, California National Party. There's Theo Slater at the California National Party speaking right after Louis and myself. Let me see if I can find some more. I don't know who that is. That's us protesting at the Capitol. There's a CHP. Those were some cool kids we gave out flags to. That's Louis in front of the Capitol with me. I mean, we did that. We never denied that. That's him speaking some more. There's Theo Slater in a Yes California t-shirt at a Yes California event, and that is Bart Gilbert right behind him bent over. So I think that's what you meant. Is that right?
Yep, that is exactly what I meant. Also, man, hats off for Bart. I miss that guy.
Bart died of old age. Really harassment. He was harassed and he had a heart attack. He was in the hospital. We appointed him an officer in the Yes California movement. The day after he was appointed, he started getting harassing phone calls from other people. Within a week of those harassing phone calls, he was in the hospital. Within 2 weeks of that, he was dead. So I blame them for harassing an old man who was sick to death. They have yet to say anything about that. Of course, we're all bastards and we did everything wrong. They didn't do anything wrong either. I will never let Bart Gilbert's death go. And I will always remember that there's at least a couple people who knew damn well what they were doing, harassing an old man who was on his deathbed and calling him a Russian spy, and you killed him. So take that to your graves. I will never forget, and I will never stop hunting for you, and I will never stop looking to out you and expose your name to the public where you can take responsibility for your actions. Because I was held to have to explain to everything I did. So now my opinion is you can be held to explain everything you did because you showed me absolutely no mercy. And now that's how I operate. All right, let me show you just this one thing. I want to do a transparent review of Louis just to get this out of the way. And mostly I wanted to do this so that nobody could say, you'll never speak bad about Louis. I'm not trying to slam Louis. I just want to get the whole history out, which they're not going to say. So here it is. So here's, whoops, that's not it. Okay, there we go. So in their list, they said they wanted to showcase transparency. And I've heard them say that. So I felt, okay, if you want to be transparent, let's be transparent. Let me bump this up. So here's the actual fair statement. Louis was a horrible influence on the image of the movement, eventually. And Louis was very mean to many people. However, Louis created the California National Party. He was there at the beginning. If he wasn't, there may not have been a California National Party. Secondly, Louis ran for office as a California National Party candidate. And he got 2 LA Times full-page articles. It was only because of the media coverage of Louis running as an officer of the California National Party for the California Assembly that got us so much media that the day that Trump was elected, the media covered us because the media could see we were already in the news. So yes, Lewis being in Russia was a horrible look. Lewis treated people very mean. But there may not have been a popularized Calexit movement without Lewis. Lewis was the one who ran for office. Lewis was the one who got in the newspaper. The only reason we got press coverage the day after Trump won and exploded to the size that we were recognized internationally and nationally was because we already had the press coverage before that day. And so we were blessed. I've taught many of you the same thing. If you're already covered by the news will cover you. So we got a lot of coverage because we were already covered. We were already covered because of Lewis running for the news. If we did not have that earlier news coverage, we may not have gotten the media blast that we got the day after Trump was elected. Lewis being in Russia was horrible. Lewis being mean to people was horrible. But those are also the things. We wouldn't have been here for Lewis. Now, CNP won't mention that. Also, Lewis was mean to a lot of people, true, but 3/4 of those people started it, and they won't admit that. And I just got to say, when you go slamming people on Twitter and then they come back and attack you, isn't that kind of your fault? I mean, why did you start stuff? However, just
well, and if I may, real quick, by starting stuff on Twitter, what the reality is people were using derogatory, sexist comments about Mr. Marinelli's wife. You don't go after people's family. That includes their mom, their dad, their spouse, their children. If you do, you deserve what's coming back to you, because that is a no-go zone. So just wanted to point that out for anyone who's thinking like Marinelli snapped and he shouldn't have. Well, you know what? I'm a very reasonable person. I'm not married, but if I was and someone called my wife a whore, you best believe my pacifist self would probably be looking to kick them in the nuts.
Yeah, we're going to cover that in just, yeah, absolutely. Just to get it clear, Lewis saying he wanted to leave the USA and join Russia was ridiculous. Lewis not returning when a majority of the SC members asked him to join when we were getting big was horrible. Lewis saying racist, homophobic things on the Yes California channel was horrible. Jason and I hated that. Lewis saying he represented the whole Calexit movement while in Russia was a lie, and it was also horrible. Lewis saying or suggesting the CNP was also Russian was a lie, and it's horrible. Finally, Lewis did all these things without consulting anybody. He made decisions unilaterally. I was the closest person he talked to, and a lot of times he was just, I made this post because they did this, and I'm just letting you know I went ahead and did it. Finally, Lewis should not be the spokesperson for Calexit because he slammed the whole movement in an email, said it was dead, and said he didn't want to be part. So he can never come back. At the same time, we had 3 federal Senate Select Intelligence Committee, House Select Intelligence Committee, Robert Mueller investigation, California Fair Political Practices Commission. They subpoenaed our bank accounts, and they found 0 evidence of Lewis being a spy and 0 evidence of the federal government, of the Russian government having contacts with us directly. So 3 federal investigations, 1 state investigation, bank accounts subpoenaed, and they found absolutely nothing. CNP never mentions that. Also, during this time, if Lewis is a Russian spy, how come he was able to travel to New York City and California routinely, and never was he stopped at the airport and questioned by anybody? During this entire time, where everybody's like he's a Russian spy, the guy's traveling back and forth to multiple American airports, isn't stopped or bothered once. Kind of weird if he's a spy for Russia. Also, the CNP leader, Jed Wheeler, also referred to Lewis's wife as a whore in the international news in Scotland. Yes, California attempted to contact CNP leadership, and not one of them would condemn this action. I personally got a hold of CNP leaders and said, is this cool for your guy to call our guy's wife a whore in public? Nobody would condemn that at all. Not one of them. And to this day, none of them have condemned that, and we brought this up routinely. CNP never mentions that. CNP Jed Wheeler's leader, when he was leader, also exacerbated the conflict with Lewis, and that's what led to things being so toxic. So Lewis didn't even call CNP a Russian stooge organization until he got into a heated battle with Jed Wheeler. So if you're throwing salvos back and forth and then it heats up to that, that's partly on Jed Wheeler. CNP never mentions this at all. They never mention Jed Wheeler. They never mention the conflict with Lewis. And they never mentioned that the horrible things Lewis said and did came after lots of conflict with Jed Wheeler, who they did absolutely nothing to rein in. They never mentioned that. Also, I specifically asked the CNP multiple times for permission to go to their group and directly address all these questions. I was told I'm not allowed to go from multiple CNP leaders, mostly Theo Slater, who was in leadership. He straight up said, don't go. And he said, but I'm going to tell my members that you refused to go. Now, I did agree with that because I thought it was going to keep drama low. So Theo did tell me he was going to do this, and I agreed. But it also says something like, I'm trying to go over there and talk. No, you can never come here, but we're going to tell our members that you refuse to go. And the CNP never mentions this. As far as the mock embassy in Russia, that was my idea. I said that was a good idea before the Russian interference in the 2016 election. We had no idea Russia was going to interfere in the 2016 election. If I knew they were going to do that, I wouldn't have said that. This is before 2016. No one cared about Russia. We have New York Times articles from 2015 backing that up. Now, my thinking was that if we had the embassy, we could make CalExit a serious movement because it would show that we could get international recognition. We were basically a fringe fluke movement. But the moment we did that mock embassy, CBS or NBC Television, one of the top two stations in America, said basically California could get international recognition if it seceded. Our movement was elevated to a level of seriousness we never would have had without that. I'm also willing to go on any podcast or external organization meeting and talk about this within reason. There's a few exceptions. And I have never been asked to do this yet by anyone. Nobody has ever contacted me and said, hey, come and speak to our members directly in your own words. So that is the full and transparent history of Lewis. Also, I want to point out, when I was president and before the business divorce with Lewis, I said to everybody, including some of these people who wrote that CNP letter, I'm bringing Lewis back. Half of them said, okay, I don't see a problem with it. Now they're saying they have a problem with it. But half of these people, when I talked to them on the phone, said, sure, that's cool. So you have like Hal Lohr, Daniel, I forget his last name. There was a couple other people who were basically
Daniel Acosta, Joe Payne, Shankar Singham.
Not Shankar, but the other guys, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Shankar threw in the towel for other reasons.
Yeah, but a lot of them who are complaining now said, yeah, that's okay if you want to bring Lewis back in. Now, they're not admitting that now. Now I'm done. That is a full, complete, total, transparent statement. It's half of what they're saying, but I also think it's important to point out, how come they can't bring up the other half? They're talking about transparency. If you're talking about transparency, I brought up 5 different points they never mentioned. This is my question to everybody. How is that transparent to never bring up half the story and always exclude everything you did wrong and only cover what the other person did wrong? Does anybody here think that that's transparent? Raise your hand.
The American federal government might.
So, not trying to offend Lewis, not trying to offend the CNP, not trying to offend Sean, but I don't play games. You tell me you want transparency, that's what you're going to get. And then you're probably going to realize you shouldn't have told me that, because I'll actually do it beyond your little token game version of transparency. I found out people talk a big time game on transparency. They don't actually want to do what it means, because it means you have to point out you have warts on your own body. And sometimes you stink, and sometimes you didn't get something perfect, and sometimes you lied. So when I see an organization go, we're for full transparency, and look at our history, everything that we did was perfect and right, I'm like, that's a lie. Whenever you get a bunch of group of humans together, you're going to do some not great stuff. And an organization that could admit we've made mistakes and that wasn't the right call, but we did these other things, I think is more honest and more transparent than an organization that has a cartoon facade of we never did anything wrong and the other guys always did everything wrong. Just my opinion. Okay, I'm done, and we are basically out. I'm going to post a few comments. Jason, any comments? And I'm going to post your comment up down here, Daniel Rice. That's awesome. Jason, check this out. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, I really liked that thought from Daniel. I was like, ooh, that is fire. Ooh. Because what are the chances they'll say yeah? Slim. Maybe not absolute zero, but pretty slim. But it does kind of, without tit for tat, eye for an eye, right? It does kind of say, oh, well, you slapped us in the face, so in order to engage in this duel, we have to slap you back, right?
I don't want to do conflict. I don't want to exacerbate tension, but I do think that's a hilarious idea, and I do think it's highly appropriate. You want us to acknowledge all these facts. Can you acknowledge some facts too? Oh, no, you can't acknowledge facts, but you want us to acknowledge facts?
Yeah, now on a slightly separate
Daniel.
No.
Sorry, Jason, real quick. Daniel, right back to you. You're muted. You're muted, Daniel. Unmute yourself.
I thought I did.
There you go.
When I do things like that, and I agree with you on let's be fully transparent, I always, if you ever saw the movie Clear and Present Danger, you know what I'm talking about in the White House? The president has a buddy that gets mixed up with drug runners. The White House is trying to figure out how to cover it up. Jack Ryan steps forward saying, no, you do this. If they ask if he's your friend, you say, no, he was my good friend. They say, was he your good friend? No, he was my best friend. He escalates it further because the point is you can't then say, oh, you knew him better than you told us. If you tell them more, they don't have anywhere to run with it. That's where I come from when I suggest.
That was some wisdom right there. That's what we call wisdom.
Tell it to Tom Clancy.
Okay, so Daniel, you get to go first, and then Alu, and then Jason will do the final wrap-up comments from you. Daniel, any last-minute comments that you'd like to share with anybody? You don't have to, but if you'd like to say anything, please feel free.
No, not particularly. Just we'll get engaged more, and we'll let you guys know once we're ready to start doing some interviews for our podcast and get all these links flowing. And that was kind of the whole concept behind the podcast, is to draw in some of the other groups so that we could all start exchanging power and numbers kind of thing is where we're coming from with it.
Alu Axelman from New Hampshire Independence. Any comments, last minute things you'd like to say? Then we'll go to the rabbi, then we'll go to you, Jason.
Thanks for coming out here. Good to see Daniel and all the rest of you guys again. Let's really start thinking about the next big events. We're going to propose the bill again, so that'll start in the fall, proposing independence bills. So starting in the fall and into winter, you'll see me start to get intense on legislation. Everyone here, if you go to nhipac.org, that's our PAC, and you can do a recurring donation for $1 or $5 a month. I don't see any big reason why everyone here shouldn't be donating $5 a month. It's a PAC that I'm not officially part of, but it's a good New Hampshire independence guy started it, and all the money will go directly to legislators who support independence, like Mike Sylvia, and or towards pretty direct legislation, supporting legislation via lobbying type stuff and direct mail and voter contact. The other stuff is, so let's start thinking about the next events. So next year, PorcFest, probably going to be in June. I would say reserve tickets and motel and everything ASAP, literally after PorcFest, so in a month. Everyone should be at PorcFest next year, PORC. Yeah. Everyone should be there next year. Then that would really get news. Liberty Block and a lot of other stuff would write about it. If everyone's there in person, it's way better. Hopefully Daniel Miller, maybe Daniel Rice and the others. Marcus, you definitely got to be there. You could bring anyone else, but you got to be there for sure. And we'll get everyone there. but also before that is Liberty Forum. Liberty Forum is the other FSP event. It's in the winter and it's indoors in Manchester, so it's a little easier. It's only a weekend. It's a long weekend, and that's anywhere between January, February, or March. It's usually January. Last year it was March. So think about coming in for that if you could. So there's that. The other thing is, obviously, I've written a few books about independence. Everyone here could check them out and support them by buying and reviewing them. Obviously, if one of the Cal Exit Congress reviewed the books, that would be the #1 book on Amazon. And then about 1 billion people in the world would see independence. They would see books about secession that have secession in the title. So that's good for secession. But also the book that Marcus and I co-authored, and Jason and a few others, Progressive Solution, we can always look at that and improve it and do a second edition. It's been about a year. So we can look at that again and improve it, add stuff to it. Now that Biden was elected and Biden's been in office for a year or two, like a year and a half, we can update that and you can write from your perspective if you want. You can write what if you want. You can write something like Biden's been in office a year and a half and we don't live in a progressive utopia, and that's more reason for independence. So we could work on a second edition for the book for sure, because now it's like a year or two old at this point. So that's another thing we could do. But let's keep promoting the book. If everyone at the Cal Exit Congress the people there or on your email list buy and review Progressive Solution, it'll be one of the #1 books on Amazon. It's not that hard because I'm not going to address bicycle riding instructions, Dan. Sorry. That's pretty funny though. The Presumed Guilty, my latest book, which is very much about independence, the final chapter is all about secession. It was the #1 new release in the category. So it's not that hard. So I've done it. I'm just a small cowboy, without a lot of help. It was for like 2-3 weeks. It had the flair to tag on Amazon saying #1 new release in this category. Again, as someone who's done this a few times now, I can help get Progressive Solution or other stuff, maybe #1 tags and stuff into a book. So for anyone else here who's considering writing any book about independence, I know Texit was an awesome book. I read it. It was actually a really good book by Daniel Miller. Everyone should read that. But if anyone else wants to write a book like Answering the Common Misconceptions, like I wrote Articles of Secession, just a short booklet answering all the common questions about independence, I encourage you guys to do that for California, Texas, every other state. There's a guy who wrote a book called Brexit for Puerto Rico. His name is Javier Hernandez. So that's another book I bought, but I got to read it soon. About Puerto Rico independence. So yeah, that's the book. Marcus, we can update that, but I want to hear what's going on with your book. I know you wrote a book about Calexit. You also had a similar thing with me with self-published and published. There are 2 different versions.
Yeah.
Can you speak to your book and whether you were planning to update it or what's going on, or how can we help support that book?
Okay. Well, I need to update this book. This is the book that started Calexit. It talked about how California could be effectively independent, and how it's legal and possible and a good idea. And I do need to update it. Mostly what I wanted to update it with was we have extensive research into counter arguments. So Calexit can't happen because of water, because of military, because of economy. We have a lot of documentation and a lot of good reasoning on refuting those points. So I thought about a second book looking at that. Alu.
Why haven't you asked everyone here and everyone else in the world to review the book? That's what smart guys like Alu do. You should ask everyone. I'll review it.
Oh, because I didn't think about it. That came out in 2012. I was pushing for reviews up to 2014, and then I just kind of stopped. But I should totally do that and ask for some more reviews on Amazon. That's a good idea.
All right, I'm going to go review it right now.
This actually makes me think we might want to put together some sort of reading list for folks.
Oh, nice.
I already have a reading list on my site. I'm way ahead of you guys.
Not so much. Okay. Can we include bias? All right. If that's it, let's go to the rabbi, and then we'll go to Jason. Rabbi Axelman, do you have any?
Nope, I'm good. Got to rest up before Porkfest.
Okay, Jason. Last minute comments. Anything you'd like to say? Take us on out. I'll do the commercial on the way out after you're done.
Okay, so first and foremost, a reminder to everyone, I, the CEO and head of Calexit, am currently in Portland, Oregon, in the Cascadia region, as the Calexit envoy. If you search for the hashtag Calexit envoy, capital C, capital E, you should see pretty much anything that I've posted about the Envoy trip. Today, in probably just a little bit now that the parade's finally over, it was a 2-hour long parade. That's like the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. I'm just saying, like San Francisco, where I live, doesn't have a 2 full hour long parade, okay? For Pride. But I am hopefully sometime soon going to be meeting up with one of the regional volunteers for Cascadia Independence. And we will be talking. My plan is to discuss some of the fine points of movement leadership. Oh yeah, there's the graphic she made for us. It's an amazing graphic right there. This is also, I'll digress slightly. This is one of those examples that Marcus had pointed out earlier, where we pinned the post up to Twitter saying very clearly, Lewis is out, we're in charge, we have full control now. And she very clearly asked, so there's no more, not going to be any more, like, you know, homophobic, transphobic stuff going on. And so I just reiterated, nope, it's definitely not going on. That's not how we are. And, you know, this is what we're doing. And just a few minutes later, she returned with that graphic and posted it up and tagged us and was like, boom. So I'm going to be speaking with her, fine points of movement leading and building, as well as the potential for an independent Oregon, independent Washington, independent Alaska, independent Hawaii, independent California, where Baja California El Sur has actually rejoined California so that it's todo California. But the idea of a conglomeration of Pacific entities which are independent, operating, you know, comparable to the European Union or something. This idea, right, when us Californians usually think about, you know, okay, say we do declare independence right now, right here, today, and it's legal and official, what does the future of California look like? A lot of people can't really picture that. But when you start talking about Pacifica and this potential that we could all gain our independence and then work together as neighbors, as friends, California would be California. Oregon would be Oregon. But California and Oregon would be friends and work together. Well, this all of a sudden provides something for the imagination, right? And so, given that the potential of that whole conglomeration could rival, say, China economically, it's definitely worth considering, I think. I mean, just California alone, independent, would be the third largest economic entity of the world. California with all of these others, and especially if, say, an independent Republic of Texas and an independent Republic of California were both on friendly terms and say, hey, you know, there's still stuff from Texas we need. I mean, where else are you going to get tomahawk steaks that weigh 20 pounds? Come on. So we could all benefit. Texas wouldn't have to put up with California money coming in and influencing their legislation. California wouldn't have to deal with the Massachusetts Church Coalition, which tried to undo our marriage equality, you know, gay rights stuff, right? That was the Massachusetts Church Coalition. came to California, spent a ton of money too, tons, trying to get Californians to overturn it because they're from a place where they don't hold the same values. And that's fine for them to hold their values over there, but it should also be fine for us to hold our values where we're at. So we could all work together. We could not be experiencing all of these things that most of us don't like. And we could be experiencing like a golden age for each of our entities, the likes of which have never been seen, really. I mean, California, when we were an independent republic before America annexed us, we weren't as big or as prosperous as we are now. So, you know, and same with Texas. Texas has always been big, always been great, but it's bigger and greater today than it was 100 years ago. So there is massive potential all around the board for all of us. And that's one of the things that I'm going to try to, you know, instill, is kind of get this vision circulating so that maybe people will stop saying to themselves, yeah, but what about, or what if, and start saying, oh yeah, maybe we should. So aside from the Cascadia stuff, I did have one thing that I would like to ask of the Congress, and the members who are here now could answer now if you feel like. Anyone from the Congress who's viewing this after, even any of our members who aren't part of the Congress but are part of the movement overall, I have been told by CNP, by Louis Marinelli, I mean, obviously, people with vested interest to say a certain thing, to hold a certain narrative. That being said, I've heard it from more than one source, so I would like to ask the Congress, please, in your honest, just brutally honest opinion, hold nothing back, please. Do you feel that the elections that we held were fair? Do you feel that they were transparent? If not, why not? Please tell me. I want to do better for everyone here.
I thought they were fair. I mean, that's my opinion. But okay. If anybody has any comments on the elections, please say them now or say them over the week to Jason, and we'll go from there. Jason, any other comments?
No, that's about it. I will be posting some pictures and videos from the Portland festivities today. I hopefully will get some pictures, maybe a short video with Arabella Stevenson, the Cascadia rep that I'm set to meet up with. Yeah, I'll just keep updating everyone. And again, to everyone who showed up, thank you. Totally love seeing you all showing up. And to everyone viewing, thank you as well. We need you all to be interested and educated and motivated. So thank you for being here.
And with that, we'll see you next time. Emails coming out with the notes and a link to the next meeting. And get ready for midterms.